So far away Lucas and lovely audience at home, welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends. And today we're talking about what is potentially one of the scariest video games ever made. Not that you can play it anymore, because it no longer exists. How spooky is that?
The Forbidden Game.
In terms of forbidden games that you can no longer play anymore, we've got Flappy Bird, we've got PT, we've got third thing that I can't think of right now.
Concord.
Oh yeah.
So do you, carry it around with you for emergency bland situations or whatever?
Hey, Mara. Don't joke about something like this.
Our next job is somewhere with less scaffolding.
No scaffolding. Zero scaffolding, I promise. We were apart for so long, I thought I'd never feel your fiery embrace again.
You sound ridiculous.
The real horror is chasing 10-year-old trends and spending several $100 million doing so. So far away, Lucas, you're not feeling too well today. You actually logged into Discord today and you came in, he's wearing the 15 layers. Little babushka Lucas over there. Babushkas.
I might be the, horror villain at the moment, just looking like death.
I haven't seen a man wear this many layers since I watched Amazing Spider-Man again. With Andrew Garfield, who's wearing 18 fucking layers per scene. It's ridiculous, but...
Take the picture. Put him down, Eugene!
But for anyone out there who's unfamiliar with the concept of Wiki Weekends, myself, or Lucas, when he's not dying... That's the cough that the lion does in Futurama when it eats tofu. Which might be one of my favourite, single second moments in anything, where it's hey, animals eat other animals, that's nature. That's not true. We taught this lion to eat tofu. It just cuts to the left.
We're vegetarians. Who cares what you do?
Shut up.
Animals eat other animals. It's nature.
No, it isn't. We taught a lion to eat tofu.
It's my favourite. Anyway, it's a series where I and Lucas, when he's not the lion from Futurama that eats tofu... Scale the lengths and breadths of the internet for wikis on subjects you're interested in, bringing them forward for discussion. And today we're talking about PT, the video game, because it's spooky season. I love all things horror, so all of my videos this month revolve around that topic. And yeah, Lucas, did you ever get to play PT? Because it's not playable anymore.
So, I technically never played PT. However, the night the demo came out, I did, in fact... watch my friends play it through multiple times.
I feel that's how a lot of people experience PT, because it was really interesting how quickly it spread. Almost entirely via word of mouth of, hey, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, the majority of people I know who are aware of PT were too scared to play and watch somebody else. I didn't get to play it because it was deleted and delisted from sale before I had a chance to grab it, because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time. But a good friend of mine still has it on their PS4, and I played it with them.
Yeah, those things are gold dust now, because there was a certain point where if you still had your PlayStation 4 online, it removed PT as a demo from your console.
Which we'll no doubt get to, yes. But for anyone out there who's unfamiliar with PT, aka Playable Teaser, let's refer to the wiki now and get us all on the same page. So, PT, initialism for Playable Teaser, was a 2014 interactive teaser for the video game Silent Hills. It was a psychological horror game developed by Kojima Productions under the pseudonym 7780 Studios. I'm not sure how I pronounce that because the studio was made up. And I am a fan of the fact that Kojima Productions just keeps making up fake companies for its games. Remember, before Metal Gear Solid 5 was revealed as Metal Gear Solid 5, and it was Moby Dick Studios.
V has come to.
Yeah, and it was made by like this author that no one had ever heard of, and then it turns out that it was just Kojima wrapped in bandages.
I am a fan of the idea of just stretching the limits of what the medium can achieve.
I think we've said multiple times over on Wiki Weekends over the years that, like, I don't think that Kojima is necessarily the greatest game designer of all time, but he's maybe the most interesting.
Yes, I don't think that he's the genius he's made out to be, but I do think that he's at least very creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I appreciate that, like, you know, that creativity often results in, as you mentioned, interesting projects. Very frequently you're able to interact with those projects in an interesting or novel way that you haven't seen before. I think to the earlier 3D Metal Gear games, where they're some of the only games I'm aware of that interacted with the hardware they were on to the extent they did.
You have not said often. You are somewhat reckless.
Like, you had, like, what, Psycho Mantis reading your memory card. You had, like, what, Meryl calling you up and telling you, like, hey, the password that you need to access this area is on the back of the game box. Or after the torture scene where you call up like your team on your codec and it's like, oh, I'm going to activate the soothing function on your controller, and your controller starts vibrating. Little things like that, right?
Obviously, like, the code on the back of the box was clearly, obviously, like, an anti-piracy thing. And
I still like it, though. I appreciate just, I've never heard of a game doing that before.
There was a lot of PC adventure games that I believe gave you, like, weird maps and ciphers and things like that you could only get with the physical edition. So, obviously, like, if you pirated it, you wouldn't have those puzzle solutions, which I also really enjoy. But, yeah, in terms of console gaming, I don't remember hearing of, like, any other games that really did that kind of stuff.
Like, another example, Metal Gear Solid 3, the internal clock. The most famous example people probably know about is that if you pause the game when you're fighting the sniper end and just leave it for 2 weeks, that character dies of old age.
Major, I found the end. He's dead.
What the hell happened?
Maybe it was from old age.
You mean he kicked the bucket in the middle of a battle?
Maybe.
Well, Snake, the victory is yours.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean?
It was his dying wish to fight me, but I disappointed him.
Snake, listen to yourself. This is a mission. It's not a game, it's not a sport. You think you're competing for the gold at Tokyo or something?
I guess you're right.
But something people may be not familiar with is that all of, like, the food in your inventory similarly rots. In, if not real time, a realistic time frame. So if you, like, turn off the game and turn it back on a week later, all of the fish in your inventory will have rotted. But the non-perishable stuff, like the rations and the calorie mates, won't have. But it goes a step further because stuff like fish rots faster than fruit.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is the fact that, like, I've heard over the years a couple of people say, you know, on, like, podcasts and videos and stuff, that they naturally encountered the way to beat the end through that, of just a matter of fact of, like, hey, I just happened to turn off my console when that fight started, came back to the game, and the guy was just dead.
An example that I love that almost nobody talks about is that after you fight Ocelot and you fall down into, like, the crevasse and it's pitch black and you call up your team, it's like, what do I do? And it's like, well, search for a source of light. And there are numerous ways that you can get through that area. You can just brute force it and just whole wug your way all the way around until you find the eventual path out. You can light your cigar, you can look for the glowing mushrooms, you can find the torch, or if you just leave your game for 10 to 15 minutes, eventually just the area becomes ever so slightly brighter, and that's because Kojima during production read about the fact that human eyes can adjust to almost total, like, darkness.
Alright, so one of the oldest tricks in the book, Snake's eyes adjust to the darkness. So here is about 5 minutes worth of footage that I sped up for the sake of saving time.
After a certain amount of time. So they implemented that into the game. So in that scene, if you just leave Snake underground for like 10-15 minutes, eventually the area becomes light enough to see and you can walk around. Because it's just... What other series does that?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the reason why PT was such an interesting concept and an exciting announcement.
And it's why, as well, it's one of the biggest what-ifs in gaming. Of what if Hideo Kojima, this weirdo auteur who's this obsessed with detail and just stretching the limits of what the medium can do, got their hands on Silent Hill. And were just told, go nuts.
Unfortunately, obviously, he put Norman Reedus in Death Stranding, but we never got that Silent Hills game. But yeah, what if? What
a shame. Well, you mentioned earlier as well, like fucking with the player for trying to like cheese their way through something, either by like downloading an illegal copy or something. Silent Hill did that back in the day. Because back in the day, I think it was Silent Hill 2 or 3, they sent out review copies to magazines. That used to be a thing that happened. Magazines are these things made a paper that you could read that had like information in them. And they'd send review copies to magazines. And what they would do is, between that and the release of the game, change the solution to some puzzles. Because I think for like one of the Silent Hill games, a magazine spoiled all the puzzles. Or told people how to get through them. They didn't like that. So what they did is the developers went back in and changed the solution to puzzles so magazines couldn't spoil them.
And we're talking about this game around the release of Silent Hill F just coming out. And
yes, it's on really... my list. No spoilers for that game. I saw the reviews and went, this is going to be a weekend off. There's going to be at some point in the future when you're better, Lucas, I'm going to take some time off and I'm playing fucking Silent Hill F. Let's go.
It's got really good reviews, and one of the really interesting things is that apparently the New Game Plus in that actually changes a lot of the dialogue and puzzles and stuff.
I love that shit.
Yeah, it's so good. And it's like, oh, now that you've got a core idea of what the story is, now we're going to fuck with you even more.
Which is something you can do with a game like Silent Hill. Because Silent Hill, the entire series has broadly been about people dealing with various psychological issues and traumas.
お前の仕業だったのか。
And the path through the games is the characters either coming to terms with that or fighting against it, depending on like which protagonist you're playing as. Like, I think that the level of detail in Silent Hill 2, we're playing as James, and like broadly that game is about James combating the guilt, literally, because his guilt takes the form of the monsters. That's what Silent Hill does. It like fucks people's minds and makes their like fears and guilt and worries like literal monsters that they have to like battle against. It's him dealing with the guilt of like his wife dying and like his response to that, and in particular something like that the game is really, really overt about once you realise it, because it's maybe it's subtle until you know that the game's doing this, is that one of the key things James is guilty about is the fact that as his wife was dying and withering away of cancer, he was becoming sexually frustrated, and then it's him dealing with the guilt of feeling sexually frustrated when his wife's dying. And that's why, for example, you have the sexy nurse monsters. So like, it's his own sexual frustrations and guilt attacking him.
Yeah, it's manifestation of like his own guilt and fears. That's what the game is about, and that's why I'm excited for fans of Silent Hill. That those games are too scary for me.
Too spooky for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's been like years since I played Silent Hill 2, so if I'm getting any details mixed up there, I do apologise. That's why I said broadly.
Yeah, but like it does sound like the new game Silent Hill F has gone away from just always Pyramid Head again to actually having their own unique monsters and themes based around the story.
Because Pyramid Head was very specifically James's antagonist. Pyramid Head has become like a symbol of the Silent Hill franchise, whereas like no, he was just, that's James's thing. Like it's specific to him. Like Pyramid Head shouldn't be going into other games and attacking other people, but then it kind of became that.
it sounds like a very frustrating thing that they eventually just went, well, we need to put Pyramid Head on the box again.
Yeah. And like the movie, like Pyramid Head does turn up, and as mentioned, like fans were initially like, oh, for fuck's sake, why didn't you just like tell Silent Hill 2? That's a great story. That'd be a great movie. But again, like in recent years, like, well, it's the best we've got. Right? They look at other like video game franchise and the projects they're getting and go, well, at least Silent Hill looks like Silent Hill.
Yeah, at least it's not one of those many Resident Evil films, right?
At least the movie based on the thing that we like looks like the thing we like, and the characters in it act like someone from that universe. But anyway. But, you know, we've got one paragraph in. Like, we didn't even mention the fact that Guillermo del Toro was working on this fucking game. What a wasted opportunity.
Well, that's the thing. This is the prototype for what eventually became Death Stranding in the end, because he was working with Guillermo del Toro and...
Kojima had the limiters on him. Like, he had the weighted clothing. This is what made him take it off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, working with Konami is not a thing he wanted to do anymore, but he still wanted to collaborate with, like, Guillermo and Norman Reedus and take a bunch of pictures of women's feet and scan them into games.
Oh, yeah. I said they're all in the masturbatorium.
Yeah.
He's done it. But it's like, what a wild decision, like, from Konami, right? Of, like, imagine the level of, like, executive pettiness that must have been going on to make someone walk away from an opportunity like this. Like, someone like Kojima, who is, like, a self-admitted huge fucking film buff and nerd, walk away from the opportunity to work with, like, Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus and just, like, fuck it, I'm making my own company.
Yeah, even if he's a difficult person to work with, it's proven now, you know, over 10 years on, that Kojima has the brand and the recognition to just make games work, and they sell. And it's wild to me that, like, Konami were willing to push him away.
We're years removed from it now, and the company does seem to be doing a little bit better, at least in regards to actually releasing fucking games. They had, like, Metal Gear Delta and the new Silent Hill game, but I think to, like, just articles that were written about how just toxic Konami's work environment was, of like, yeah, people who work there don't have their own work email. They have, like, a series of numbers. Like, you're not even allowed to have your own name in your email address. You get a series of numbers. And it's like just that level of, like, just, like, as I said, executive pettiness.
And obviously there's the other side of things where they just kind of, at that point, were pivoting entirely away from making video games and just wanted pachinko machines. Yeah.
It will never stop being annoying that up until the release of Metal Gear Delta, the best version of Metal Gear Solid 3 was a pachinko machine. And they re-rendered every Metal Gear Solid 3 cutscene with the Fox engine they developed for, like, Metal Gear Ground Zeroes and 5, and then used it for a pachinko machine.
Like, the first time Metal Gear Solid 3 was ever in HD, and actually, as you say, re-rendered fully, was got for a thing that, like, 99.9% of people are never going to get to see.
Yeah, but, like, no, bringing it back now to PT. After the cancellation of Silent Hills, Konami did a very Konami move and removed PT from the PlayStation Store and made it impossible to reinstall. And it's to the point where, as Lucas mentioned, what do?
They put an update on the PS4. I don't know who did an update or what. I don't know whether it was, like, I think it was like a system level by PlayStation to actually just remove the PT demo from your machine, even if it was already installed.
Like a system-wide update that just deleted this game, so you can no longer play. Or this, like, teaser for a game. And it might be one of the only times I'm aware of that happening. I can't think of another example in modern times of a company so thoroughly removing something from the internet. I know we had, like, that Looney Tunes movie, right? The Acme one. But that never got released. This was released.
Just something not releasing.
Yeah, like, this was released. People had it. Not in their hands. It was a digital release. But they had it on their consoles that they own in their house. They released an update to take away this game from people.
And this is mine, that's mine, all this is mine, I'm claiming all this as mine.
The closest I can think of is, like, an update like Grand Theft Auto 4 did after, like, 10 years, which just removed songs from the game because the licensing agreements ran out. So that was like an update that removed content that you supposedly owned. That's the closest example I can think of.
It's probably actually very timely of recording.
Okay.
Rock Band 4.
Has Rock Band done that as well?
Rock Band 4 has been delisted or is about to be because of the 10 years that they had for licenses. And then as it's going to be a rolling, moving forward thing of each song as it hits that 10-year license agreement end is just going to get removed from the store for purchase going forward.
Like, at what point are they going to start deleting it from copies of the game? Or, like, you know, people's Xboxes and stuff.
And that's what I'm afraid of, right?
Well, they've done it before, right? There's a precedent for it. Grand Theft Auto did it.
I'm scared that it's gonna.
For context, Lucas, how many songs do you have on Rock Band?
I have over 500 songs on Rock Band 4, and I'm scared that at some point they're just gonna go, oh hey, even though you have bought them and downloaded them,
they're on your console.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah,
they take it away. It's baffling to me that companies have the ability to do this. It blows my mind that Konami was so petty. They released an update that deleted it from people's consoles, and you can no longer play it.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, right? Is that like that? I can't even see a reason for that in terms of like licensing or anything.
No, Lucas, executive
maybe
pettiness.
likeness rights.
It's that simple. They were just petty.
It sounds like, yeah, they were pissed off with Kojima and didn't want anything associated with him to be there.
Let's talk about the game itself now, though, Lucas. Unlike the third-person perspective in most Silent Hill games, PT used a first-person perspective, which centers on an unknown protagonist controlled by the player who awakens in a spooky house. And right away, this game looks fucking incredible. I know it's a very, very limited experience that you have. That game looked fucking awesome. Bordering on photorealistic, and it was released on the PS4.
Yeah, it was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. However, it's worth mentioning, it was a corridor.
It was just one corridor, and maybe like the final product wouldn't have had as much polish as that had, but the fact that it wasn't like a bull shot, it wasn't a trailer, it wasn't like Ubisoft where they release lie shots in trailers where shit is just made up.
They're barricading all the windows.
This was a thing that you could have and play yourself. And it was rock solid and it looked bordering on photorealistic.
So many creepy, disgusting things just in that little demo. Like
that's what made it so interesting. There's like the amount of depth. That's like the Kojima just insanity of you are in a single L-shaped corridor. You could play that game for hours and keep discovering new things.
Yeah, no, like, as I said, a friend was playing through it, like, we were over at his, and it was basically, like, an entire night of playing through that demo, and I would be able to just leave the room when I was too scared.
Just new stuff keeps happening. When I was playing it with my friend, and I was, like, just going through it, and I was like, okay, so what do I do now? Because obviously it's a puzzle game. I'm not the greatest at puzzle games, so that's, you got a hint from me, like, I've never seen this iteration before. I don't know what's happening.
Like, there was so many iterations and it was so loopable and playable, but it was a really interesting experience because we were playing it the night it came out.
The thing is that, I'm so jealous that you got that experience.
Because, like, we were in real time Googling to see if people had come up with, like, new puzzle solutions.
This is 2014 as well, so, like, YouTube was still quite nascent at the time.
Yeah, and it was literally, like, checking forums in real time of like, has anyone figured out the next step? And we were there for hours just like doing the same thing over and over again just to see the next thing. And it was so surprising how many next things and next iterations there actually were.
And the amount of like depth and as well, it's the amount of like content that is in that one L-shaped corridor. There is an entire game there because this was the teaser for that game. People have pieced together an entire fucking narrative of what's going on in that world. And you are getting like one glimpse into it, which I think is just so perfect. It's like playable teaser is the right name for it. Fucking incredible. And I'm annoyed games don't do this. I miss demos. I miss being able to like just get, here's like, one room, one mission. Just here's your vertical slice of what this game is. I still talk to this day about one of the things that made me buy an Xbox was that my friend had the demo of Dead Rising, which was just 20 minutes in the first section of them all. That sold me, not just on that game, that entire system.
I think that was one of the smartest things the Xbox 360 did, was put a mandate in that all games had to have a demo. And on the development side, I do realise that, like, it's a massive ball ache, and it's, you know, it takes away a lot of development time away from, like, the final product, and it also puts a lot of stress on people to get it done in times for, like, things like when E3 was a thing back in the day, and Summer Game Fest now, and Game Awards and stuff. Like, I get it, but in terms of the consumer side, it was a massive win to actually have a free small demo for every single game that was put on the 360.
Especially that we're in the era of no pre-orders, right? Like, it's a trend, like, with people who play games, like, do not fucking pre-order this game. Do not give them your money before they have proven that the game is worth your money, especially now that games cost so much and that there's so much, like, choice out there. We don't have demos. Demos like one of the ultimate, like, playing field leveler. Because I know immediately if your game sucks or not.
Yeah, and it's certainly, like, become a little bit more popular again, as so many games are releasing, but it's not back in the 360 days.
We more get betas now, right? We don't get demos so much as we get betas or early access titles where you, like, pay, like, you know, a reduced amount, and, like, the agreement generally there is understood to be, hey, you're getting a worse version of the game, but you have access to it earlier, so you pay a bit less money.
Yeah, and you're able to provide feedback to see, you know, what you want to see in the game and stuff, but it definitely, there are massive things like Steam Next Fest and stuff like that, where it's a lot of smaller titles putting out demos for their, like, indie games and stuff like that, but yeah, when it comes to bigger games, it definitely feels like it's a lot more based towards, like, betas and early access and stuff like that, yeah.
To younger people watching this, first of all, like, thanks. Our audience tends to trend, like, 30 and over, so well done you for having good taste. But yeah, it might sound like a completely different time. Like, I remember a time where you would get games with your cornflakes. I got Age of Empires with my cornflakes.
But now we just have free-to-play games, so that's
which I guess,
the equivalent,
like, you know,
right?
That's much better. You know what, I'm looking back, it's like, if they just had the ability to play games for free, I probably would have been a Fortnite kid.
Oh, Karl, Fortnite just got K-pop Demon Hunters, and
Lucas is about to become a Fortnite kid, right?
I'm so tempted, but I have to resist, because every time I go, like, maybe I'll play a bit of Fortnite, and then maybe buy the, like, Dragon Ball skin that I like, or the K-pop Demon Hunter skin that I like, and I play, like, 2 games of Fortnite, and I'm just like, I don't enjoy this game very much. It's not worth it. I think the
review our mutual friend gave of, this is the most this game is built for you I've ever seen, and I just don't like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's wild how much of Fortnite seems specifically engineered toward me, and I just don't want to play it.
It's just not the game for us, yeah.
You know what game was for me though, Lucas? Fucking Silent Hills and PT. Continuing on with gameplay, Lucas, as you stroll around this spooky haunted house, you experience various supernatural phenomenon. Available areas to explore in the home consist of an L-shaped corridor with 2 rooms, a bathroom and a staircase which leads to the room in which the player starts a loop or a continuous reiteration of the initial corridor. The only actions the player can use are walking and zooming. And that's the thing as well, you have such limited control over this game, and yet there's so much you can do, which is like, that's the Kojima, like, magic right there of, can we make a game where the only interaction with the world you have is zooming in and looking closer? You don't even, like, press a button to activate stuff, you just look closer and that's it.
Hey Homer, what'd you do, get a haircut or something?
Look closer, Lenny.
There's, like, a phone in there and a picture and stuff, and
like, there's no, like, contextual button animation like quick time events, pick up the phone, answer it. It's just you look closely at the phone and then you get audio.
Yeah.
And again, I can't think of the game where that's the case, where all the story is it's just all surrounding you. It's all diegetic.
And it's really funny because, you know, obviously people give so much credit to PT for being, like, the greatest thing ever. And then one of the criticisms I saw of the new Silent Hill game, Silent Hill F, is, like, the combat wasn't great, and I'm like, that's kind of meant to be the point of Silent Hill, though.
Yeah. Like, combat can be good, but if the combat is too good, then you're not making a survival horror game anymore. You're making a survival horror action game. Like, there's a difference between, like, RE2 and RE4, right?
yeah, like, the difference between most Resident Evil games and Silent Hill games is that you're very capable in a lot of Resident Evil games, but you're not meant to be in Silent Hill games.
I have heard that the protagonist of, like, the new Silent Hill game, once you, like, go into New Game Plus, she's, like, an absolute fucking, like, beast monster. She's just fucking, like, beasting on all the enemies in that game, because, obviously, the level of fidelity and control you have over, like, your little anime girl is so strong that you're fucking beasting on the enemies by the end point. And I'm really looking forward to if that's the case. And to clarify, I don't mean that I want that game to have good combat. I like the idea of, once you master its systems, it's no longer scary. So that means I basically get to play that game twice. A comparison I'd like to make is Dead Space, where your first time through Dead Space is very tense, very scary. Like, you spend a lot of it, like, creeping around with, like, your plasma cutter, running away from monsters. Second time through, it's Isaac Clarke's Stomp Venture. Fuck you, New Game Plus, let's go, give me my line gun. And you essentially get two different experiences while playing the same game. I love that. Same with RE, right? For saying go through RE4. It's a bit more action-based, but the first time through, you are a bit tense, you are a bit scared. Second time through, it's like, fucking let's go.
Yeah, I think with RE4, it's more through the progression of, like, your initial adventure, right? Because you go from just a guy with no health and one pistol, so by the end of it, you're a walking arsenal that's just rocket launching the boss to death.
Which makes it fun to think about. I'm going to go back through that base game. Like that early part of the game where I was like running around like taking pot shots at Dr. Salvador. Now I'm going back in with my fucking fully upgraded riot gun. Let's show you what for.
Exactly.
And like I said, you effectively get two different experiences in the same game. I love that.
And it is very interesting when it comes to Silent Hill specifically, though, of when it came to the Silent Hill 2 remake, people were complaining that James felt too powerful compared to the original.
It's because I chalk that up so James controls better.
Yeah.
Like, you've got more control, which means you have more fidelity. So you have, like, there's less chance of you, like, fucking up with, like, it's like early RE games where you had, like, tank controls, which are really clunky, and you can master the tank controls and just, like, fly through that game without ever getting hit once. But on an initial playthrough, that, like, clunkiness adds to the tension almost. It's similar to, like, you know, protagonists in a horror movie when they struggle with their keys to get into a door. You won't really have that in a game, because in a game you press a button and your character does the thing perfectly every time. I feel it's almost like an inadvertent way of replicating that feeling mechanically. I know it's not intentional, and I wouldn't want a game to be intentionally poorly controlling, but I can see I can understand why it'd be frustrating for developers of, like, okay, games just control better now. People are better at playing games. There's more input options that we have. Giving a player too much control means it's too easy for them to, like, avoid damage and the spooks.
That's the thing, is you say that you don't want games to control worse, but we were talking about this on the podcast literally last week of, like, talking about things like QWOP and Bennett Foddy's games of, like, making game intentionally obtuse to play can work in its favour if you design it correctly.
If you design it correctly, yes. But I feel like for something like a Silent Hill, which is, like, photorealistic, you don't want your character controlling like shit. It's like I said, I think
I kind of do. Let's play Silent Hill F with QWOP control.
I think a Silent Hill game where you had, like, tripping from Brawl, I think that could work in, like, a survival horror game, because, like I said, the horror movie where, like, someone's running away from the killer and, like, you know, so they're stumbling with the keys to try and get through a door, or they drop them when they try to start their car, and you sat there at home going, well, why are you doing that, you fucking idiot? And the answer is, well, they're being chased by a monster, or Jason Voorhees, or a man with a chainsaw.
The one thing I don't like about tripping is that it's unfair.
Well,
because, say, for example,
game, right?
Well, just even take something, for example, like Baby Steps. Like, that Baby Steps game, I have not played it yet. It looks phenomenal. But it looks like every time you make a mistake, it is your mistake, which is what the difference is with tripping, where it's just random.
I'm not sure. That's the thing. I'm not sure how you'd implement it into a horror game.
Yeah, no, I was more, you know, exaggerating for effect, but it would be fun to go back to a day where a horror game was willing to make it you know, harder to control again, because you do get a little bit more tension in that.
Maybe not
sense,
more,
right?
Maybe not more difficult to control, but to have a deliberateness to the way in which you move. Like, I think to maybe, like, you know, it's a really, really tired thing to do with, like, compare a game to Souls games. But I think to, like, how deliberate the movements are in Souls games. So mistakes are more heavily punished. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, because like I'd want something more like Elden Ring style, where, for example, everything feels correct. It's slow and deliberate, but everything feels correct. Whereas like Dark Souls, the jumping is bad.
Yeah, it's deliberately obtuse, right? You've got to sprint and press the sprint button to jump. That's just bad design. What does that add to the game besides frustration? But a good example of like how difficult this is to balance is the game like Silent Hill Homecoming, where in that game you play as a soldier. So one of the justifications of having bad combat in a lot of Silent Hill games, or clunky, frustrating combat, is that, hey, you're playing as James Sunderland. He's just a guy.
Yeah, you're playing as a high school girl. She shouldn't be competent in combat.
In the fourth game, I think it's the fourth. That's the room. It's just in Homecoming. You play as a soldier.
Yeah.
And because you're a soldier, you've got combat training. That game is a piece of piss because no enemy's a threat. Because your guy, he's too powerful. And the basic knife you pick up in the first area can carry you through the entire game because it stun locks every enemy.
To clarify, there's a big difference between being able to do a knife-only run of RE4 when you're very competent with the game after many runs.
Which requires, like, mastery of like movement and spacing and like just what the enemy's AI is. Whereas in that game, you stun lock everything. Every boss, every enemy can be stun locked by just mashing like the light attack with the basic knife.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do in RE4, but you can do it.
It can be done. If you're like
in Homecoming, it sounds like it's optimal to just use the knife.
It's just too powerful. And that's, I think, like with proper, like with a full mastery of the game systems and mechanics, it is possible. So I'm looking forward to like that new Silent Hill game, because apparently once you've mastered that game's like combat system, you're a fucking god beast.
It's really interesting to try and find the right balance, and I think one of the really interesting things about PT is that fuck you don't even get combat. You just have to do the correct puzzles and not die.
Not even like you can't even interact with the world. That's it. It's so interesting, and presumably that wouldn't have been the entire game. You couldn't have built an entire game around that, but it made for a really compelling teaser. And like, just here's your first lick. Like, like first hit's free.
And then we never got the rest of it.
We never got the rest. And like the people out there were like still want this game to this day. They were like, it's just the dealer on the corner of like, here's your first hit of PT. So what do I owe you? Nothing. It's free. Then you go back and the dealer's gone.
And like, admittedly, it does seem to be a bit weird because Kojima recently talked about OD, which is the quote-unquote game they're making for Xbox that they talked about, but then when they recently talked about it, it was like, well, I'm doing one episode and Jordan Peele's doing like a different thing, and it's like, okay, I'm interested, I'm intrigued, I don't know what this is, but it's some kind of horror Kojima experience.
It would be like, I imagine, like the term that's often used is its spiritual successor. Which is quite fitting given that the game is all about being like chased around by a spooky ghost. So plot. PT centers on an unnamed protagonist, Norman Reedus, who awakens in a concrete-lined room and opens a door to a haunted corridor. The player can only walk through a hallway which continually loops and redecorates itself. And that's the thing as well of like the amount of like subtle things that change. It's very interesting. It's a classic horror movie trope of it looks the same, but something's off. I wouldn't quite describe it as the uncanny valley effect. That's just specifically for people. It's or not deja vu, but whatever like the fucked up version of deja vu is of. This is familiar, but something's wrong, and I don't know what it is.
So I remember like vague bits. Obviously, this was like 10 years ago at this point, but obviously I remember, turning around and Lisa just being behind you and grabbing you and dragging you away. But
it mentions here that jump scare is completely random, so that can happen at any point during gameplay.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out for ages what triggered it, and it just turns out, fuck you, it could just happen at any point.
Do you know what the really scary thing is, though? After a certain point, because I remember playing it with that friend, and they had like a good sound setup, is that when Lisa's there, because you can hear her behind you.
Oh, yeah.
And there's so much like subtlety to like, so Lisa is like this ghostly apparition that like haunts the fuck out of you. You can hear her breathing. You'll take a step and you hear her take a second step behind you. You can look into a mirror in the game and you can see her slightly in the mirror. You can see her shadow sometimes, and if you turn around too quick, she'll jump behind you. But sometimes you'll catch her like, almost like when you see something like the corner out, what the fuck was that? It's genius.
Sometimes you'll turn around to check whether they're there, because you can like hear or see them.
Yep.
And as you say, they won't. They'll have like teleport behind you, but then you turn back around, and that's when they get you.
And that's when they get you. And just something that's really like, it's quite subtle, because most people are probably screaming when this happens. Something you can hear, which is very Silent Hill, because it deals with like a lot of like fucked up, often sexual imagery, is that after you get knocked, like she snaps your neck, which is weird, like in first person, because like your camera turns all the way around. You can hear your fly being unzipped. Well, I think there's a lot of like weird, fucked up stuff going on in this game. So,
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that as you progress deeper and deeper into the game and you keep going around the loop, it gets progressively more fucked up. You start hearing voices and quotes that will appear on the wall, painted on, saying, "Watch out, the gap in the door is a separate reality. The only me is me. Are you sure the only you is you?" And that's where like you'll look through a gap in the door and you'll see like a spooky face and it slams shut.
And then you'll go into the bathroom and there's like a baby in the sink.
The creepy screaming baby, right, that people just don't like. It mentions here that after a certain point there'll be a refrigerator hanging from the ceiling leaking blood with the muffled sound of a crying baby being heard from it.
One time I really remember was like the walking through and Lisa just being on the balcony, and you're like, "Oh, don't look up! Don't look up! Don't look up!" That's the thing, is the amount of tension they create with a corridor and a couple of rooms.
That's the thing. Like, it's the essence of horror.
Mm-hmm.
And like the beauty of one of the reasons I love horror is it's so simple, because something as simple as just walking through a corridor can be made scary if you know how to specifically just pluck those strings.
And like that's why I think people are probably so excited for OD. People could finally be excited for an Xbox game.
Yeah.
But you know, like it seems like the ideas maybe came from Kojima. We don't know. We don't know who came up with these ideas, but Kojima Productions produced this, and if similar people are working on the game that is going to be OD, it's got to be so exciting, because as you say, with such a simple formula, they knew every string to tug with like tension and horror.
And as mentioned, we've not even like scratched the surface. All sorts of crazy. You'll hear like the radio will come on. You'll hear like stories about like a serial killer and various people dying. You'll find newspaper reports referring to like various natural disasters. You'll hear a voice in the background randomly uttering a series of seemingly nonsensical numbers. Like the game will fake a crash message and restart and give you a flashlight, so it turns into a fucking super horror movie where you only have a flashlight.
Yeah, and I think as well, the combination of horror elements and puzzle elements were done really well. Where just, as I said, there were moments where we were like locked in our progress because we had to figure out the next steps, and like it was literally this community moment of gaming.
It mentions here that we've got the development here. Hideo Kojima stated in a later interview they intended for the game to take a few weeks to complete since it was a teaser, and they were surprised when people completed it in a few hours.
But I say it was an online community moment where people had to come together and go, what is going on here? Who's made the next inch in the puzzle?
And that's the thing, you can say it might have taken an individual player weeks to complete this thing, but when you have just the amount of just brute forcing, millions of people can do at once. It's like say if it's like the infinite monkeys theorem, right? If you've got like 1 million players just bashing their head against each section of the wall. Eventually they'll find a way through. And something interesting here is that Kojima noted that they wanted to not rely on graphic violence to build up suspense, stating that too many horror games rely on this trope. And there's very little direct violence in that game, and it's fucking horrifying. Like, the closest you get is, like, you know, the blood on the floor, your character having their neck quickly snapped, which, like, is not graphic really, except for the noise. The noise
you don't see it because it's from a first person perspective, right?
And then the sound of someone being attacked and killed in another room. Sound design as well is so good in that. Like I said, like, just footsteps, just like the sound of, like, the fuck is that in the distance, like when the radio starts, like, flipping the fuck out.
Yeah, the sound design has to be spot on for this kind of experience, because there's not much else to the game.
There's not, but there is a lot of, like, shit going on behind the scenes that people maybe didn't know. So, a user was able to hack the in-game camera of PT to show that as soon as the player obtained the flashlight, the model of Lisa is tethered directly behind the protagonist away from the direction he is looking.
So indeed, Lisa is actually behind us through the entirety of this particular haunting.
This allows the game, as mentioned, to show fleeting shadows of Lisa and some of the sound effects associated with the player's experience throughout the game, like her footsteps and stuff. So at a certain point in the game, she's tethered to your player character, so you're going to get spooked at some point. There's also other unused scenes in the game, such as Lisa's headless corpse lying in a bloody bathtub, and also that the player character is modelled after readers throughout all parts of the game, and not just during the ending, although the mirror in the bathroom is scratched out, so you can't see that detail, and that much of the outside world is incomplete, but it is a detailed map of Silent Hill.
Right, okay.
And it's just...
Again, it's a teaser, right? So they were building that world and had some elements of it.
And just, yeah, we've got a section here on Legacy of just, it's been alluded to in other games, and it is widely considered to be one of the greatest just, like, horror experiences available in the medium of gaming, and you can't play it anymore.
No.
And the worst bit as well, I bet it's been really hard for me to find clips that don't have some chucklefuck talking over it.
True. Yeah, I didn't think about that part, yeah. Oh, God. Like, that's the thing, I don't have a PlayStation that has it on anymore because it got updated out of it.
I know they removed it from digital stores, and that's when my friends still had it, that's why I wanted to play it. Of like, oh shit, I guess I better get on it now. Because I ain't got a PS4, and who knows how long it's going to be here. A couple months later, as you said, they released the update that just removed it from people's consoles. And the only way to play it is to find a console that has not been updated.
Yeah, I believe, like, people still to this day, you know, put things I believe people even to this day are, like, listing PS4s on things like eBay and stuff and Facebook Marketplace of, like, this is a PS4 that hasn't been updated to remove PT and it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, because you literally can't access it anymore. There's also, like, people have remade it. And the remakes, like, they're probably close, but they just don't have the level of fidelity and detail. Because they're usually, like, one-man teams.
Kind of like when Flappy Bird had that removal from the
which he does
the
mention here, yeah,
stuff.
people selling iPhones with Flappy Bird on, right?
Yeah, and like I did the same thing, but it was more for my own amusement, where my phone has Angry Birds on it, the original Angry Birds, and that got removed, and I was like, well, it costs a few quid, and I can have the original Angry Birds, which is actually the good Angry Birds. Yeah, I'll take that without the ads and just have that on my phone forever.
I think there's, like, Angry Birds is a popular one. There's, like, a lot of, like, crossovers that Angry Birds have done that got removed from sale when the licensing ran out, like Transformers, Angry Birds and stuff like that.
Yeah, they milked that cow real good.
They milked that bird. that bird was milked. Something fierce, which is something that probably appear in a Silent Hill game. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Not entirely about PT, but it's about horror games and what makes horror games scary in general, because I love horror, but I don't play many horror games. Because I don't like having the direct control over my character, because I feel that giving me that agency makes something less scary. Because ultimately have the ability to fuck up the intended experience by, like, just looking at the ground or turning around.
Which is exactly why I prefer horror games, because I feel less scared and I have control over the character, whereas, like, I don't have control over the movies and TV shows and stuff,
and that's
right?
why I personally prefer media in which I don't have direct control over what's happening on screen, because that, to me, adds to the tension. That's why I'm watching the scary movie. It'd be like if I was on a roller coaster and at any point I could press a button and it'd stop moving.
Yeah, and, like, that thing is, you can make video games, most video games, maybe not PT, but you can goof around in most video games and make them less scary, and you can stop and start.
It's why I think it having such a limited, like, control scheme is what makes it so ingenious, because you can't fuck around. So the tension and the experience they're trying to craft can never really be broken. Like, you can't, like, jump up and down on a spot, you can't randomly pick objects up, you can't dick around with your flashlight, you can't pull out your gun and put it back again, you can't keep opening and closing your, like, inventory or something like that. It's just, you are locked into the experience, and it's as close as you get in a video game to just being stuck on that fucking roller coaster track, and you are being dragged through that haunted house, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, it's why I argue for horror games being one of the only type of games where having less control is a viable option, and games like even not feeling as good to play is also viable, because, yeah, like, at a certain point when you become like Resident Evil 6 and you can start like just doing like roly-polies on the floor, you remove every bit of horror from that game.
Well, I think so. I've recently been playing like Borderlands 4, and like that game tries to have some emotional moments. It's like you can't really have an emotional moment when I'm just jumping around on the spot doing a 360 picking up guns.
Yeah.
So sometimes, like, you know, that limited amount of control does add to the experience, but it's not something I'd want for every game, but it's certainly something I'd want for this game.
It's a little slice of a game that we'll never get, and for the sake of, you know, horror enthusiasts, I'm very upset on their behalf.
So I'm more upset, like, you know, for the sake of just history, culture. Right? If this game, if like PT was shit, I'd be like, okay, it kind of sucks that they removed it from like stores, but who gives a shit? It was PT. But when it's like universally regarded as one of the scariest playable experiences ever crafted for video games as a fucking medium, and you can't play it, it'd be like saying like you're not allowed to watch like Citizen Kane, or Wizard of Oz, or one of these like Jaws or something like that. Like, you're not allowed to watch it. Sorry.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously it was a small experience, but a lot of horror games are small experiences. It's not to take away from how good that small experience was.
I don't think that diminishes it at all, especially because it's horror. And anyone out there who's recalling the scariest thing that's ever happened to them, if you think about it, that moment in your life was probably a couple of moments, maybe even a few seconds, but it stuck with you literally for the rest of your life. That's horror. That's why it's such a great fucking genre. Because something that can just stick with you forever. And something that sticks with you forever, for better or worse, is very effective.
And PT has stuck with me for the last 10 plus years, yeah.
What a story, Karl Lucas. That sure was a great video.
I wasn't sure what you were doing for a second.
So welcome to our shout-outs to our big PPs over on Patreon. And PP stands for Patreon Producer, but we call them PPs because it's funny to say.
Carl, they're the big PP.
They are the big PPs, yes. And if you would like to become a big PP, you can follow the links found below to become a member of our Patreon and hear your name be shouted out like we're about to do now. And the first name to shout out, Lucas, is someone who's taken a gauntlet I threw down on the ground many, many months ago and decided to put a piece of poo in it and then slap me across the face with it by creating ever more elaborate and difficult tongue twisters. So the first person I need to shout out is Through Rough, Cough, Sloughing Snuffles, Brought Tough, Thought Fraught, Throngs Through Slough, Slight Altin Suppose the Stress. And it appears that their name got cut off by the character limit over on Patreon, so do be aware of that. But I think I nailed that tongue twister. I also like as well, like referencing slough in a tongue twister. It's slough.
Or imagine being able to be magically whisked away to Delaware. Hi, I'm in Delaware.
And I'm going through some rough coughs at the moment, so it's quite fitting. So if I sound a little bit off, I'm just ill still, and I still want to be here to just shout out everyone and give thanks for support. So,
yes, literally fighting through illness. And before we did this, Lucas just looked at me like, Karl, I don't think I'm going to make it.
But the next person we have to thank for their lovely support is Daddy Grunt. And Karl, obviously, we could acknowledge Daddy part of Daddy Grunt, but I'm just going to say, like, in terms of grunting, in terms of, like, acting, what's your favourite kind of, like, effort in a video game or whatever?
There's a couple for me. I do like the efforts for Isaac Clarke in the Dead Space game, because all of his, like, grunts of just to the point where he literally starts shouting "fuck you" if you swing around his gun enough.
I was going to make a joke of, I like the noises that the grunts make in Halo when they're just mountain screaming.
Like, what's your favourite grunt scream, and why is it not again when they get hit by a plasma grenade? And the next person to shout out is somebody who has taken that poo-poo covered gauntlet I mentioned earlier, picked it back up off the floor and slapped me across the other cheek by coming up with a name that is a series of words in a language I do not speak. So let's give that a go, shall we? So, next person to shout out is Tinakui, Hochata, Oxilane, Tomi, Sema, Sikapatia, Ta, Nitla, Maktia, Ipan, Kalta, Maktilioyan. And if I've mispronounced that, I'm very, very sorry. If you can't tell, I'm very bad at pronouncing words I'm not familiar with. So I deeply apologise for my bad pronunciation, but I do get the feeling that the person who picked that as their name on Patreon kind of wanted to see me fail a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Just the thing is, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much where we're going to get cancelled for, like, have you heard how bad that pronunciation is? But enough where they can be like, look at this fucking dude just struggle.
Playa, Yakur.
Of the volcano. Aya Fiatla Jurgen. Here.
Eja Fiatla
Joker. I mean, speaking of struggling, Karl, I don't even have words for the next shout out, so...
That's what I mean. Like, people have, like, these gauntlets. I feel like there's multiple gauntlets now with multiple kinds of poo in them that people are like throwing at us left and right. So the next person has not even submitted a name. They've submitted a story told via emojis. So Lucas, what is this story?
I don't necessarily know what the story is. I can't quite grasp it, but it does appear to be a series of faces made out of punctuation. So I'm gonna do my best to describe what I see.
So Lucas, I now get to say one of my favourite lines from one of my favourite bad game shows. Say what you see.
£290. What do you think it is?
Tip the waiter.
I see burning dragon, uwu face, happy face, glasses face, maybe butt cheeks, little jazz hands face, and then an angry face throwing a table at a very scared looking face. Yeah, did I just absolutely fail at getting the prize in catchphrase?
Like, no one will ever fail harder than just a snake charmer. We mention it all the time. I'm putting the clip in again.
Means concentrate. Here we go. Sean!
Snake charmer.
And the next person to shout out is Rosalindus Memphis. And we need to shout out Rosalindus Memphis, one, for their long-time support, because I recognise this name. It's been in multiple of these big PP shout-outs. And also for just having a nice, short, easy-to-pronounce name that doesn't embarrass myself or Lucas.
True.
And I mentioned in the last big PP shout-out, I do try to put in a fun clip for each person's name when we shout them out. And the one I keep trying to put in for Rosalindus Memphis is a song with the word Memphis in it.
I find it funny, Karl, because I said months and months ago now that you're going to regret throwing this challenge down so hard, and now here we are. But somebody else that has kept it simple is Kicking Bucket, who also has decided to, I think it was last month, they added in also having a table flip emote in there. So we've got multiple little angry table flip emotes in there.
And Kicking Bucket is a euphemism for, just eating shit. So Lucas, what's the most you've eaten shit recently in a video game?
I mean, I've been playing Hollow Knight Silk Song, Karl. So
say no more.
Like, all I can see in my head is just like Horner, just like, Shah!
Well, for me, it's Borderlands, because I bought Borderlands 4, and I shit you not, it won't boot up.
Oh my god.
It crashes on boot if you're connected to the internet.
It just dies, it kills itself.
Literally, like, as soon as you start the game, it crashes on boot. So I think the entire game refusing to play, that's like the entire game just died. It's great. Amazing. Fuck you, fix that shit, Randy. Premium games, premium players, they won't even boot up without being connected to the internet. Fucking legendary. The next person to shout out is Lucille DeSteele. And Lucas, I've kind of been, taking the reins on this one, because Lucille DeSteele is another long-time supporter, and I keep putting in clips of real steel. So instead of me putting in a clip from one of my favourite, like, comfort movies, guilty pleasure movies, whatever you want to call it, what's a guilty pleasure / comfort movie for you I can put a clip in from?
Hopefully you can get away with putting a clip in, but my answer is going to be Lilo and Stitch, and not because it's necessarily a guilty pleasure film, but more I take a lot of guilty pleasure in the amount of just Stitch merchandise I constantly buy.
Yeah, and I'd say you get to pick which clip I'm going to put in, but it's of course where Lilo just absolutely goes like to town on that little girl and starts delivering like the hammer fists.
You're crazy.
Like, why do they not teach like the little girl playing Lilo in the live action reboot MMA shit so she could just like deliver the beatdown of all beatdowns?
So this is where you get her in the arm lock. Oh, God. And the next person we have to thank, Karl, is Be of Awesome, who has provided the answer to the riddle that they provided last month, which I'm a big fan of. The idea of giving us a month worth of setup and then a month worth of payoff.
And Lucas, would you like to remind people the riddle they posed to us last month? Because that's another fun thing people are doing with the big PP shoutouts of posing questions and riddles to us that we have to answer. It's like, answer me my riddles 3.
So Be of Awesome, the answer to last week's riddle, what lies on the ground 100 feet in the air, it is an upside down centipede. And
I should have seen that one come in.
Yeah, I read that and was like, how does that make any sense? Why would there be any...
We admitted to not cheating. We could have cheated for that riddle and made it look really smart, but we figured we could cheat for the riddle and look smart, but then people are going to see us try and pronounce these foreign words and just then know we're not that smart. But the next person to shout out is ghost emoji, little ghost emoji, and it is spooky month. Lucas, do you have a favourite ghost or character who is now a ghost? That's not going to be too much of a spoiler.
Well, I'm going to go with Pokemon, as I do love Pokemon, and I'm going to say Mimikyu, because...
That's fair.
It's quite fitting for October, I'd say. It's in, like, permanent outfit of, like, Pikachu cosplay, because if it's not...
He's wearing a Halloween costume, right?
It's literally wearing a Halloween costume, but if the Halloween costume falls off, everybody dies.
I know it can't be, but could it be? Pikachu's hand!
And then next person we have to thank, Karl, is Split Screen, another person that has just... gracefully not punished us, so I have to thank them for that.
And their name is Split Screen, and we are in Spooky Month, as mentioned. So, Lucas, is there a favourite example you have of what I like to refer to as scream acting, which is where actors just scream real loud, and it's very convincing, or, at the very least, entertaining?
Well, my favourite moment of scream acting is in the movie Scream, where they...
I knew it. I knew it. When Matthew Lillard just gnaws on the scenery. Yeah,
yeah, of course. Like, the faking death moment, just, the reveal. It's like, yeah.
That's right. You gave it up. Now you're no longer a virgin. That virgin. Now you gotta die. Those are the rules.
My favourite example of like proper scream acting is Shalto Copley in District 9, where he's just screaming in like with his really broad South African accent of like, fuck you fucking prawns. He's so good. He spends half that movie just fucking screaming, and then the other half annihilating people with pigs launched at Mach 3.
Not the Mach 3 pigs.
No one wants the Mach 3 pig. Except for Shalto Copley, because he's like, fucking prawns! And last but not least, we have to shout out Ranma Satami. And it's really fun as well, because like when I booted up my computer this morning to start work, I saw we had like a Patreon subscribe, and it was Ranma Satami. I'm like, that's perfect. Me and Lucas are doing the shout outs later today. They picked us at the post and got it at the last possible second to get their name in the credits.
There's my name right there.
Ranma Satami.
Looks more like Brad Storch. No, it says Betty. Betty Symington. That's for taking credit for other people's work.
We appreciate the support of our big PPs. Our PPs are just everyone who watches these videos, especially if you're watching it to the end and seeing us talk now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.